Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Hope you're doing good. I wanted to come on today. I've had several requests on my YouTube channel to do another routing tutorial. So I figured I would go ahead and do a video, post it to my YouTube, and also post it to my Reborn help group, and just kind of knock two birds out with one stone. So, I'm going to go over a few things today that I have found to work for me over the years. Some things are really simple and you'll probably already know, and maybe other things you won't. I know a lot of people struggle with routing, and I also struggled with routing for a very long time. I would say my routing didn't start looking decent until around my 10th baby. So that was quite a long time for me. But I want to go ahead and start first and foremost with what, in my opinion, is the most important aspect in routing, and that is your needle. Okay? So let's go ahead and start. I mainly use 42G routing needles. I use also, once in a while, I'll use the 43G. For most hair, including Delta Dawn, Slumberland, a lot of the lower end hair, it will not work. 43G, you will not get anything rooted in, okay? So if you're a beginner or even been in it for a little while, I wouldn't suggest using the 43G at all, because you're probably not going to get anything rooted in. Okay, I use 40G on occasion, but 42G is my main needle. With routing needles, when you're talking about numbers, the lower the number, the more it's going to root in. And it's also going to root in higher diameter of hair, okay? So in reborning, unless you're rooting a toddler, you want to stick with 42G, okay? And that's just my preference, my personal preference, and I've heard many people say that they prefer the 42G. So, my favorite needle, let's see, I think I'm missing some rooting needles here. My very favorite needle, the 42G 1 barb, I can't use. And the reason is, the holes that it leaves behind are unattractive, and for the really tiny diameter of hair, it pulls right back out. So also be aware of that, okay guys? Because that's something that you don't want happening, and this is it. Let's see if you can get a good view of that. If you notice, it has more of a blunt tip because it is a crown. It has, it's the forked, excuse me. It's more of a blunt tipped than your regular needle. Make sure you can see that. So the hole that it leaves is much larger. Okay? And let's talk some more about needles. A lot of people like using, just a moment, sorry about that. A lot of people like using the big wooden holder. This is one that I made myself. I went over to Hobby Lobby and, excuse me, found this little doodad, as I call it. It's just a little contraption here. I found over in the, I believe it was the woodworking section. And it was like $2.99, I think. It was not expensive at all. And what you can do is cut your needles, cut the little handles off, and as you see, it's got a little grabber inside there. And all you do is insert the needle, you loosen it up, insert the needle, and then tighten it up. And then this is just a little, one of those little pencil covers. It's like felt, and it makes it a lot more comfortable. But I don't even use this. I got it a few years ago when I was trying to try one out, and I found I like just using the needle better. And I'll just cover some very basic things first. With your needles, your handles are going to look like this unless they're cut. This is how you can tell how to hold the needle. Okay? So, this part down, and that's how you're going to root in. Okay? Now, a scenario with these needles here. I bought these at the Rose Doll Show last year, and it's the first time I've ever had this to happen, but I couldn't figure out why they weren't rooting in. I couldn't figure it out. So I twisted my needle and it worked, and I found out that there was a defect in them, that the barb is actually put in the wrong place. So if you ever get a needle you can't get the root in, if it's not the 43G, take your fingernail and feel around, and you can feel where your barb is. Okay? And then that'll show you where you need to root in. But I just thought that was hilarious. These needles are spiral needles. Okay? They are, I don't know if the camera will pick it up because they're so small, but they're made on the ends as a spiral. And they claim that they leave no holes behind, period. So, when I ordered these, I accidentally ordered the wrong ones. I ordered 6 barb, and so they just root way too much in for me. So I won't go over hair because I've got so much of it, and there's so many different types. So you'll just have to play around with your hair and decide which is better for you. I'm currently using Delta Dawn to root this baby in that I'm going to be showing you. But I do switch around to different ones. I also have some Alpaca. I tried it. I hated it because it all fell out even after sealing. So personally, for me, I would not recommend it to anyone, but some artists love it and they swear by it. So you'll just have to decide that for yourself. But I didn't like it at all. These needles here, the green rubberized needles, I bought from Jacqueline Kramer at the Rose Doll Show last year. And they are the Heavenly Illusions. And I know that a lot of people love these needles. I like the needles too myself. I do. I like how they root in. This is a 3 barb, which is all she had left, and they root a little heavy for my taste, but I can deal with it. My only complaint with those needles is root depth. And by that I mean a very small part of the hair inside of the head. It's very small. Personally, I like a lot of hair inside of the head. I feel more comfortable rooting and sealing that in. I feel, more confident that it's not going to pull out. So, you'll just have to decide that for yourself as well. These are a couple of different needles I bought from Creative Impressions, I believe it was. And these are my favorites so far. Okay. My second favorite is McPherson. With Bountiful Baby, I do not like Bountiful Baby's needles. They break. Ever since I stopped using Bountiful Baby needles, I've never broken a needle since. I have dulled out needles before I've had anything break. So these are the ones I'm using right now, the 42G 3 barb crown. Typically 3 barb for me is I don't like it. It's too much. But these needles are micro rooting needles, and they are exceptional. They're about $1 a needle, but they're very, very good quality, and they're worth it in my opinion. So these are also from the same place, and they're the 42G forked rooting needles. And these, I like these as well. So, but the one I will be using today to show you how I'm rooting is going to be the 42G Crown 3 barb micro rooting needle. Okay. So, I hope that explains to you about needles a little bit better, but I want to just give you, not just tell you, but show you the difference between the needles. This is the 6 barb like I was showing you earlier. I'm going to grab a test head. And I'm just going to grab, this is Slumberland hair. And I'm just going to grab a little bit here. Now cut. Alright. Now. Okay, as you can see, I've got a very small amount of hair here. Let me zoom in. And focus, and it's going to make a terrible sound, and I'm sorry. But my camera does this. Okay. So, this is why it's important to stay with a needle that does not have a lot of barbs. As you can see, it grabbed every single hair. Let me show you again with a larger bit here. Okay, so I've got my hair tuft. Let me focus a little better for you. I'm going to hold my needle by the handle. I'm going to position the needle flat to the head. I'm going to push in the hair. Now, as you can see, that's what rooted in from one punch. So, if I were rooting this head using a 6-bar needle, that's the results that I would get. And that is not very attractive, guys. Now, let me put this needle down and grab the needle that I'm currently using. I'm using the same technique. And I'm going to punch it right through the hair like I did last time, holding my needle flush. There you go. And I'll go ahead and do it once more. So, there's the difference. All this versus this. Now, you could, theoretically, if you wanted to, if you had this needle, this 6-bar needle, and you had 0 other options, you have no money, no way to get more needles, you can pull out a hair from your tuft, a single hair, and root that in. But it still somehow pulled it. But anyway, that's a lot of extra work, and I don't think anybody wants to be doing that. So, okay, let me go ahead and zoom you back out for the moment. And as you can see, those first punches are not pretty. Okay, Mr. Test Head, you can go back up. So, that's pretty much the importance of your needle. It can make or break your rooting job. Okay? The second most important thing, in my opinion, is the hair. But like I said, we won't go over all that. I could spend all day talking about the differences in hair. Just the higher quality hair does, look better when it's rooted in, but it doesn't have to be the most expensive hair. It doesn't have to be Delta Dawn. It doesn't have to be Slumberland. There are a couple of vendors on Facebook. Let me clear this camera up. A couple of vendors on Facebook that sell hair that is a near high quality hair and for a very reasonable price. What's the name of it? Let me think here. I haven't tried Jay's Premium Mohair yet. I've heard a lot about it, and he is supposed to be sending me a free sample to try. He claims that his is better than Delta Dawn, and his price is cheaper. So I'm going to test that out, and then I'll let you guys know. And I'll give you my honest opinion about that, and you can give it a try. But the other lady, she sells a decent quality of mohair, and it's, I think, $25 per half ounce, which is, to me, it's very cheap. So let's go ahead and get on to rooting. When I root, I've got my little box here with my different hair. I've got this little doodad. It's a comb, a razor comb. I never use it. These are my hair clipping scissors. You don't have to have hairdresser scissors, but it's good to have a little bit of a better quality scissor, just to help you when you're cutting. I think I got mine for like $8, $6, $8, something like that. Tweezers. You want to have a good pair of tweezers. And a toothbrush. I've got my trusty superhero toothbrush. And then mohair conditioner. And this is just my own little mix. So, there's that. So, I got all that there. Because I do have to use my tweezers. I've got my head here that I'm working on. This is Isabella by Nikki Johnson. And let's get zoomed in and get started. Sorry about that, guys. My video cut off. So I'm going to go ahead and get busy showing you guys just me rooting and kind of giving you some tips along the way. And we'll start first with directional rooting. Directional rooting is very important. This here, let me show you what I used. This is just a little, like a miniature boppy, I guess you'd say. You can find them anywhere, fairly inexpensive. And then I keep it here in a bowl. And that just kind of helps it fit perfectly, as you can see, and it doesn't really move around a lot. So when talking about directional rooting, it's very important. You don't want to just root all one way, because it takes away from the realism of the baby. Because real newborns, their hair goes in all different directions. At top, it's going to go from about the top of the head, where it flattens out right here, down to about probably about an inch above maybe maybe a half inch. A half inch to a inch above the brow bone. Okay? And you can kind of measure from the temple up as well. So, when talking about directional routing, as you can see here, this is where I've started my swirl. And because I don't map out the head, what I do is I usually go ahead and root out in the direction I'm going to root. And that also kind of gives me a guide and lets me keep everything even. As you can see, I've got this hair here going this way. And then I'll follow that right on down to the bottom of the head. At the same time, I also have it going this way, which will come down and go right about behind the ear. This will go right down here at the top of the ear. And then there'll be hair here that flows down to the sides. And then finally, it'll flow this way down into the temple, where you see usually like a little sideburn right here. And it'll flow from the top and fill in the rest of my top there. When you're doing the back of the head, you don't want to go straight down, because a real newborn's hair is not straight down. As you can see, where I've started here, let's get this up a little bit so you can see. Where I've started here in my swirl, this will do the same as it did on the other side. And this will flow down into the hair I have rooted here. And this will fill in the rest of the side hair. But my hair, as I was talking about at the back, my hair will angle down. And instead of going straight down, it'll kind of go at an angle to make up the back. Okay? So, how do you root your hair directionally? It's all in the turn of your needle and the turn of your head. So, when I start rooting in here, I'm going to, let me make sure you guys are focused well, because I've been moving this head around. Okay, so, and if you notice, my hair here at top is much thicker. And, excuse me, it's much thicker here because of the style I've chose. Okay, so, to root directionally, let me just show you here. Let's say I'm going to be rooting this way. This way. This is where I'm going to start rooting my hair in. Right here. And I'm going to root right on down into here. Okay? So once I've rooted all the way down into here, I'm going to need to change direction, because I'm going to want the direction of my hair to change from going this way to going this way. So I'm going to accomplish that by turning my head. Okay? So what will happen is, instead of rooting this way, I'm now going to be shifting my hair a bit and rooting this way. Okay? Excuse me, guys. I'm kind of getting over a cough here. And I'll show you some actual rooting here in just a minute. You want to make sure when you're rooting, you're not going in like this, or even like this. You want to keep your needle flat and flush as possible, as much as possible, so that that's how your hair will lay. If you root, let me just show you. If you root your hair like this, I don't know if it'll even go in that way. If you root your hair like that, as you can see, the hair is sticking up. Now, you can, of course, spray it down, but what's going to happen is, even when you spray that down and brush it that way and let it air dry and all that, you're going to have a little bump up right here where the cuticle of your hair is going to be sticking up a little bit. Okay? So, if at all possible, try to keep your hand angled to where it's going to root flush. And that once you do it for a while, just keep mindful of it. You'll eventually train yourself to do it that way. So, let me see how close I can get you in, and I'll show you some rooting. Okay, that's about as far as we're going to get. So, let's keep in mind also, when you're rooting, you want to, well, here's what I do, just to make sure there's no little stray hairs poking up. I'll twist my hair and hold it tight so nothing's going to escape this point right here. And I'll take and I'll pull it, and as you can see, some little short strands come out there. I don't want that, okay? I don't want that in my rooting tuft at all, because what's going to happen, that's going to root in, and it's going to be uneven, and it's also going to root ugly. Now, let's talk about rooting tails. Rooting tails are, let me see if I can give you an example, just show you one. Okay, I hope you can see this. This is what I call a rooting tail. It's when you have a little tail sticking out that is much shorter than the rest of your hair. That happens because of rooting depth. Basically, your needle is not pushing that other hair in far enough to go completely into the head. And the reason that happens is usually because you're way too far down on your strand, your tuft here. Okay, so keep in mind to stay at a reasonable length away so that you don't get those little tails. If you do get those tails, you can either pull it out with your tweezers, but if you do and your needle is not sharp enough to cut those hairs as they go into the head, you're going to pull your entire rooted hair out. Okay, so you also have the option of rooting those in. What I like to do is I'll hold the hair that I don't want to be rooted back in, and then I'll just grab that hair and root it back into the same hole. Okay, but I try not to make it to where those don't cause those tails to show. So okay, I think I've just about covered as much information that I think might be helpful. So let's just go ahead and show you some rooting, okay? So I'm going to just root following my little swirl pattern. And I'm going to root and try to stay as even as I can. But you also want to remember to stagger your rows, okay? You don't want to go in lines. So basically what I'm saying is you don't want to root, let's say, you don't want to root like a hair here, a hair here, a hair here, and then directly below, a hair right below it, a hair right below it, and a hair right below it. When you do that, what happens is you have these columns. You got straight lines of hair. And in between it, you can see space. You want to make it to where all that is filled in, and you do that by staggering the rows, okay? And this is rooting 1 hair per hole. But I advertise my rooting as a mixture of mono and micro. And that's because sometimes I'll get 2 hairs per hole. And to me, that's totally fine. I don't have any problem with it. But if you're wanting to mono root, which is the 1 hair per hole, then you'll definitely want to keep a check on that and make sure if you get more than one to go ahead and pull it out. And you can always, if you're wanting to just do strictly mono rooting, then you can always take 1 hair out of your bunch at a time and root it in, okay? But because I'm using such a small gauge needle, I can root into this large tuft, and it's only going to root in a couple of hairs, if not 1 hair at a time for me. And that's also the importance of having the right kind of needle, okay? Sorry guys, it's just really odd for me to root this way. So here, if you want the mono root, here's your 1 hair. And then you just push that in. Excuse me. Now don't get in a hurry when you're rooting. Try not to get in a hurry. I know it's boring and time consuming to a lot of people, but doing it right is well worth the wait. And as you can see here, this hair is kind of on the thick side. And I don't like that, so I'm going to take my tweezers and take it out. And you can check your bunch, your tuft of hair, for thick hairs. And usually the lower quality hair will have a lot. That's just something I've found personally. But you can check your hair. You can lay it up against the head, and you can usually spot those really dark, thick hairs that come up in the bunch sometimes. That looks like one right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that one out, because I don't want to root that in. And usually they'll be a lot more kinky than the other hairs. Okay? So, I'll just root a little bit more and let you guys watch me here. I need an overhead camera. That would be much easier. Okay. I feel like I've got some blank space here. Maybe where one hair didn't root in. And some are so small the camera won't even hardly pick them up. But that's, I mean, that's about all there is to it. And you just, there's another thick looking hair. You just follow your, you can also just follow your lines up if you've already got rooting in. It kind of acts as a guide for you. You don't have to put so much thought into it. Okay. And I hope that helps you guys. I hope that kind of answers any questions that you may have had. And if you have any questions that you can think of that I didn't answer, you can always post a comment for me, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. I'm not going to get into cutting and all that right now, but if you would like to maybe see a future video of cutting and styling hair, then we might be able to get that done for you. Alright guys, I appreciate you watching the video, and I do hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching guys. Have a great day. Bye.